What if I told you that the money in your pocket isn't really money anymore? That the numbers in your bank account don't represent real value, real work, or real scarcity, but something else entirely? There was a quiet, legal, and barely noticed when currency stopped representing reality. No riots, no emergency broadcast, no warning, and yet, from that moment on, money became a story we all agreed to believe, even as it drifted further from the real world. So when did this happen? Who made the decision? And why are the consequences only becoming obvious now? To answer that, we have to go back long before digital payments, before credit cards, before governments promised stability they could never truly deliver. Setting the stage, background, and tease for most of human history, money was simple. Gold was valuable because it was rare. Silver mattered because it was hard to find. Paper currency wasn't wealth, it was a receipt, a claim on something real stored somewhere else. Kings, empires, and later governments understood one rule: if people stopped believing money represented something real, the system would collapse. So they made promises. Promises backed by metal, reserves, and limits. But as nations grew, wars became expensive, and political power became centralized. Those promises became inconvenient. And that's where our story truly begins. Origins: money as reality. Under the gold standard, currency was anchored to the physical world. You couldn't print endlessly. Every new unit of money required real reserves. This system enforced discipline, but it also limited power. Governments couldn't easily fund wars, bail out failures, or promise endless growth, so pressure built. The rise, the age of abstraction, the turning point, didn't happen overnight. It happened in stages. First, convertibility became temporary. Then reserves became flexible. Finally, in 1971, the last tether was cut. Currency was no longer a claim on reality, became a claim on trust. From that moment, money was no longer constrained by nature, only by policy. Central banks gained the power to create currency with keystrokes. Debt stopped being a warning sign and became a tool. Growth became dependent not on productivity, but on expansion of credit. At first it felt like progress. The breaking point when numbers lost meaning as money multiplied faster than goods, assets began to inflate. Homes became investments instead of shelter. Stocks disconnected from profits. Wages lagged behind living costs. People worked harder, but felt poorer. The signal was clear. Currency was no longer measuring reality, it was distorting it. But the system couldn't stop, because stopping meant collapse. The fallout, invisible theft, inflation, didn't look like theft. It looked like economic necessity. Savings lost purchasing power. Debt became permanent. Entire generations were priced out of stability. And the most shocking part, nothing was technically broken. The system was working exactly as designed. Failed fixes printing the problem away. Each crisis brought the same solution: more liquidity, lower rates, bigger promises. But every fix pushed currency further from reality. Instead of solving the imbalance, it delayed it at a higher cost. Modern parallels the pattern repeats today. Digital money, endless deficits, and asset bubbles aren't anomalies, they're symptoms. We see the same cycle repeating. Expansion gives distortion, gives denial, gives crisis, gives intervention. Only now, the scale is global. And the question is no longer if currency represents reality, but whether reality can survive without it. Final takeaways first. Money is not value, it's a measuring tool. And when the tool breaks, decisions fail. Second, systems built on trust collapse quietly before they collapse suddenly. Third, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, especially in finance. So ask yourself this: if currency no longer reflects reality, what does? And what happens when people finally notice? Call to action: if this made you question how money truly works, subscribe to the channel. Because understanding the system isn't about fear, it's about clarity. And the more you understand the story behind money, the harder it becomes to be fooled by the numbers.